Husband morphed into a careless liability post-childbirth, squandering money and risking safety, and now he's giving me the silent treatment. When I was 19 after a semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel and turned my car into scrap metal with me inside it. I have enough metal holding me together that I light up like a Christmas tree for TSA and physically impaired with good days and bad days. I used a portion of my settlement check to buy a house outright and have it retrofit to accommodate my needs as I'll eventually require a wheelchair. I work in software development as it's fun and nobody cares if I work from bed on bad days. My husband has not worked in 5 years. Which has been fine until our daughter was born. Between the settlement money, a paid-off house, and my salary, I enjoyed having him here with me. He contributed by handling most of the domestics. We pay for a weekly cleaner with monthly deep cleaning because it gave us more time together. Ever since our daughter was born, it was like a light switch turned off in his head. For our daughter, he would buy the wrong size diapers. Not fully mixed bottles. Put diapers on backwards. Leave out poop-covered wipes. Forget to latch cabinets. This past week, he has gone to the store 3 times because he keeps coming home with the wrong size socks and shoes for her. I eventually just ordered the right ones on Amazon. For me, he has tried to help me with my weekly pill organizer fill up and several times has spilled the contents of new medications all over the floor. Then not seeing that he didn't get all of them off the floor. He has repeatedly brought me grapefruit juice to take my medications with, a huge no. He has repeatedly forgotten that I can't have dairy and puts milk in my coffee. Or cheese on a burger. He has broken so many things of mine from being careless. He shattered my laptop because it slipped out of his hand when he tried to pack it for a trip. Even after I said I would pack my own electronics, we've lost so many spoons and forks to the disposal. He tried to replace the head gasket in my car and over-torqued the engine bolt, which shattered in so the block and 2 different shops said they couldn't repair it. We ended up getting a new vehicle because a replacement engine would have cost $11,000. A week later, he crashed the new car into the garage door because he thought he'd press the brakes, not accelerator. He wanted to do TikToks and streaming as a hobby. I supported him initially. But I quickly noticed a pattern. Anything regarding our daughter or me, he was sloppy and careless. He never whoopsed his own stuff. He would build entire sets to stream or make videos with, leave the garage, and leave his brain in the garage. It came to a head 4 nights ago. He streamed himself building a new set piece. 9 hours straight. Meanwhile I worked, clocked out early to pick up our daughter from summer camp, cooked and fed both of us, got her ready for bed. He came out to help put her to bed. I let him know that I needed to get some work done and would be in my office. And I asked him to take the trash out. He says he will. 2 hours later, I left my office and the house felt really warm. He'd taken the trash out, but left our front door partially open. And was back in the garage with his game volume really loud. I panicked since our daughter is able to get out of bed and thankfully she was sound asleep. But she could have easily toddled right out of the house and he wouldn't have noticed. Then I noticed a stove top burner was on. With a small pot on it with nothing inside. I didn't use the stove for cooking that night. I popped my head into the garage and said, "Hey, I need you for a minute." I informed him of the door situation and he responds, "I thought I locked it." We checked the camera and no, he did not. I asked about the burner being on and he said he was planning to make ramen and forgot. He pulled the still hot pot off the burner and put it straw-eyed into the sink on top of our daughter's favorite plastic plate. Which is now ruined. I'll admit I overreacted and screamed, "What are you doing?" He realized what he'd done and pulls the pot off our daughter's plate. And straight onto the countertop. I grab it quickly and run it under water to cool it down. I tell him I can't tonight. I can't deal with him. I'm taking my meds and going to sleep. He gets a cup from the cupboard, and sets it straight onto the burner that had been on. I hit my limit. I started crying. He kept saying that it was fine, things happen, it's just an accident, he's had a rough day from streaming, he's just tired. Why am I crying? It's just a cup. We can replace it. The anger hit and I said it's because I have a liability and not a partner. He said, "What the fuck does that mean?" I screamed that it's because I can't trust him to do anything. That I'm always having to watch him like a child. Always having to bear the costs of his mistakes. That every time I get careless and think I can trust him to be an adult, I'm always the one getting fucked over. I then said, "I can't see you as a partner anymore. You're just another liability in my checkbook." He immediately stormed out of the kitchen and went to bed. I called my mom and told her what happened. She thinks it's just stress and offered to take our daughter for a week so we could figure this out without our daughter seeing it. She says it was an asshole thing to call my husband a liability. In the morning, I told my husband that my mom would pick up our daughter from summer camp and offered to watch her for a week. He said okay, and that's the only interaction we've had since. He spends all day in the garage playing games with his friends, making TikToks, and streaming. For food, he's been ordering DoorDash and having the person deliver it in the garage. It's been days and he refuses to be in the same room as me. I've tried messaging him to ask if we can talk. Or figure out a solution, but he's just left me on read. If I pop into the garage, he ignores me but apologizes to his friends or viewers for the interruption and geek unmute his mic when the noise stops. Before the blow up, I've asked if there was something going on. I tried to gently respond every time he screwed up so our daughter didn't associate mistake to anger. I asked him to schedule with a doctor to see if something was going wrong medically. He always said I was overreacting, people make mistakes. And didn't see an issue, even when the same mistakes kept happening. When I tried to get him to understand that it was concerning just how expensive his mistakes were getting, he'd wave it off as it's not like we can't afford it. I love him dearly, I just miss the person he was before we had a child. Update 1. Why does my husband not work? He can easily find employment, but we both agreed that the pay was never worth the toxic environment of his field unless he wanted to start his own business, which he did not. He worked in home repair and renovation. It was gross how his coworkers spoke of and treated women, female customers and coworkers alike. He saw many female coworkers be sexually harassed into quitting. He hated how gross it made him feel when sales and adjusters would take advantage of women. Yes, selling inferior and unnecessary services at a premium is a thing. If he said anything, his hours would get cut until he left. He left one job on the first day because his boss left a screaming voicemail for not selling a refrigerant service to a young black couple who didn't even need refrigerant. Yes, he's got documentation and reported multiple employers to the state labor board. And checked back. Nothing was ever done to our knowledge. He's also tried a factory job and a warehouse since leaving the trades. Both heavily penalized him for needing scheduled time off for my medical needs. There's no worker protection here for any of that until FMLA, unpaid, which takes AE, to be eligible for. Yes. It is a privilege to walk away from a paying job with your middle fingers held high. I have done the same many times, but I'm happy where I'm at right now because it's the opposite of toxic. I'm thriving and our company has a no penalty, unlimited paid sick/medical leave policy that is strictly enforced at all levels of management. Any lead who penalizes people for taking leave gets sacked. A unicorn of a company. Add in a child and short of finding another unicorn employer who won't penalize him for needing time off for me or our daughter, such as when daycare closed for a week due to an RSV outbreak, puts him out of the workforce until either I stop working or our child old enough to not need consistent monitoring. Last reason for this dynamic is that although I'm disabled, my job pays almost double the highest salary he's ever had. With no reduction in pay for needing time off. It doesn't make financial sense for us to switch who the working partner is. 2. Does my husband have a large following or make money from streaming/TikTok? No. His lives have an average of 6 viewers. And his Twitch has 3 followers. When we did our taxes, he didn't get a $1,099 and he showed me that he'd got all of $6 from TikTok live gifts. Nothing from Twitch. His viewer counts are about the same as end of last year. 3. Why do we still have a weekly housekeeper and have our daughter in summer camp and part-time daycare? I hate the dynamic of one spouse working a single job for 40 hours a week while the other juggles simultaneous domestic duties, child rearing, care, enrichment, socialization, and essentially being on call 24/7. I would not want those expectations of me and couldn't fathom putting all of it on someone I love and cherish. If my husband did all of the activities and field trips that daycare did, his evenings and weekends would be taken up by domestic duties that I would physically struggle with assisting. The weekly housekeeper helps prevent cleaning paralysis. Where small missed things pile up into unwieldy monster tasks and struggling with where to start. The monthly deep clean and organization has been a world of self-care as we navigated to having an infant and the transition from infant to toddler. 4. The allowance thing. Yes. I wanted a dynamic where my husband had his own money even if he was not working a paying job. Maybe I've been on social media too long, but I've read so many stories of non-working spouses, albeit mostly women, being financially abused or unable to leave marriages because they did not have access to money they could save up in private. Should I have stopped it sooner when our dynamic became too unbalanced? Yes. I own that. 5. As for what happens if/when we divorce, the house and settlement balance is in a trust completely separated and as far as my lawyer can tell, out of his reach. Alimony would be up for a judge to decide, but between my documentation, that his licenses/certs aren't expired, plus my continual medical costs, Terry's a good chance of not being obligated. Hopefully that answers most or all of the background related questions. On to the update. Friday I finished work to the smell of food being cooked. My husband was plating dinner on the table when I left my office. He said he wanted to talk over dinner. Some people had given me a heads up that my story was on multiple TikToks and I'm grateful because it meant being prepared for the possibility he would see it. Which, I have feelings about my post being used for content on the very platform my child and I have been neglected for. Not good ones. He did see one. He asked if it was me and I told him the truth. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, that's how I feel. And yes, I read the comments on Reddit. And no, I won't delete or change how I write about him just because I know he can see it. I don't know how to describe his reaction, but he said he'd spent the last day reflecting on just how bad could it be for Soma, and why medical diagnosis suggestions be given as reason and justification. He did say that he's not ADHD. His mom was addicted to opioids and Ritalin when he was a kid and she tried to get numerous doctors to have him diagnosed ADHD. She had him believing he was, so he also sought out 2 opinions once he was an adult. He didn't learn about her addiction until his mid-20s. He did seek therapy once he was aware that his mom was trying to use him for pills. He said he was willing to see a psychiatrist one more time, but he doesn't think he's ADHD or autistic at all. He does think he might be depressed though. If not depressed, he will ask about some of the other medical suggestions if it will ease my worry or rule out a major problem. He did sound genuine in this, but something he said is sticking with me. He said it jokingly and apologized as soon as he saw the hurt in my eyes. That everyone saying there's something wrong in his brain must be onto something, since he chose to love and marry someone medically fragile, knowing our life together would be anything but normal. He did also admit that the night he'd left the door open, the pot on, ruined our child's favorite dish, and a cup, he drank a little too much on his stream. And would monitor that more closely. He said the last few nights, he had been filling his wine bottle with grape juice so it looked like he was a jolly drinking Viking, but was actually sober. He said he would keep doing that. After dinner, we went out and he surprised me with seeing the new Deadpool movie. We didn't go to our normal theater because he looked up what each theater had for limited edition popcorn buckets. I now have the baby Deadpool one that holds popcorn and a drink. We spent the next day going over the extent of how our family dynamic changed for the worse. How the little things have added up. How I see change as a part of an apology. If you verbally apologize but repeatedly do the same thing, the apology words are worthless, to me. And that he didn't recognize just how frequently he was making the same/similar oopsies. Sunday, we spent talking over short and long term. What needs to change immediately, him scheduling his own doctor appointments. Timelines for expectations. He agreed that replacing or fixing things he caused will no longer come out of our expense account. He will pay it from his allowance account. Which we talked about. I did turn deposits back on, but only for $50 per paycheck. He suggested we keep it that way until he's paid back the cost of repairing the garage and car from earlier this year. He said it will take him far longer to undo the cost of destroying the engine to my last vehicle, but that he's going to step up and find ways to make it right. Just so you know. Yes. I see the red flags. Love bombing. Not knowing how frequently despite repeated talks. Thinking verbal apologies are the final step in apologizing and not understanding that repeatedly doing the same problem thing is the same as never apologizing. And yes, I know he will read this. Do I actually think this is resolved and we will come out of this as a perfect married couple who stays together until one of us croaks? Not really. Full offense to husband, for now. Is it a potential resolution? Maybe. But my husband is fully aware that he has a lot to make up for, a lot to fix, and a tight schedule to make it happen. And that the lesson for our daughter, later in life, is either going to be taking real accountability can steer a wayward ship back to course, taking accountability is the right thing to do, even if you don't get the result you wanted, or love alone isn't enough. Now on to second story. Exposed my niece's engagement to a man twice her age at our family gathering, now everyone's attacking me for ruining her happiness. I, 33 male, have a pretty big age difference with my brother, 44 meters. He had a child at 25, which means that I became an uncle at 14. Because we were pretty close in age, I formed a special bond with my niece, Ella, now 18F. When she was 16, my brother and his family moved away, so I've been seeing them less recently, but we keep in touch and catch up at family events. Last year, at Christmas, my niece told me that she had a boyfriend and told me a bit about him, but I didn't know the guy. He was invited for Easter and a couple of other events, but was never able to make it. When we were planning our mother's birthday, my brother decided to invite Ella's boyfriend so that we could all meet him. Yesterday was the birthday. I was looking forward to meeting Mark, Ella's boyfriend, but was very confused when I saw her walk in with a man that looked double her age. Spoiler alert, he is. She introduced him to me, and I politely smiled but was deep down very concerned. I went to my brother to ask how old Mark was and he told me that Mark is 36, so literally double Ella's age. She had told me that he was a bit older, but I assumed like early to mid-20s, not almost 40. That's when they called us in the living room to share exciting news. Ella showed us a ring and revealed that they were engaged. I just said what the fuck and everyone turned around and looked at me like I was crazy. I told them that they were out of their minds if they thought this was normal, that there was no world in which a 30-something should date an 18-yo, and that she shouldn't be getting married. All of them accused me of ruining Ella's happiness. Some even said that I was jealous of Mark, which is so fucking disgusting I can't even explain it. I mean, I'm younger than Mark, but never in a million years would I ever consider dating someone younger than 25. They told me that it was perfectly legal as they were both adults, which isn't true because they've been dating for a year and Ella turned 18 7 months ago, and that if they were happy that's all that matters. I told them that they were sick for allowing this and that he was a predator, but they wouldn't listen. I know this isn't my business, but I can't help but fear for Ella. She is young and doesn't really know what she's getting into. I'm really scared of her getting married and being unable to leave him when she realizes how sick it was. I then left and slammed the door, and have been receiving pretty wild messages and calls since then. I don't know if I was wrong for this and I'm just overreacting, and if I wasn't wrong I don't know what I can do to make them realize how wrong it is. Update 1. What I've decided to do is, 1. Apologize to her. I sent her a text saying I was sorry for my outburst and that I should have thought it through beforehand. I told her that I never wanted to make her feel like I didn't want her to be happy, and that I loved her very much and had her best interests in mind. 2. Ask her if we could talk about this. I asked if she would be okay and free to hang out and maybe get coffee this week to talk about all of this with a clear head. I really want to try and get her to see why it's weird and that maybe marrying him is not a great choice. 3. Explain myself to my brother. I sent him a text saying that I was sorry for the way I said it, but that I still thought that it needed to be said. I explained to him why I think Mark is a predator and this relationship could have a very negative and damaging impact on Ella. I'm still waiting on their replies. I'll update when they reply, or when I see Ella, if she accepts, depending on how long it would take. In the meantime, I really want to thank everyone who gave me advice and was constructive, and really tried to help my niece out of this situation. Update 2. Ella replied and told me she agreed to meet with me and talk. I just came back from seeing her. Here's how it went. She asked me what I wanted to tell her and I started explaining that I didn't think her relationship was very healthy, and that no older guy should want to date a teenager. I told her that she was an incredible wom, and so I wasn't saying it was weird that someone would want to marry her, but that guys my age normally shouldn't even look at a teenager. She wasn't convinced and said that sometimes it's true but sometimes it's okay. I asked her how she would feel if I told her that someone born today could be her future partner, and she said it felt really weird. I also asked her if she would consider dating someone younger than 15, and she said no. I could see her starting to realize that Mark maybe didn't have the best intentions. I also asked her if she knew about his previous relationship, and she said vaguely and just told me the girl's name. I asked her if she knew how old the girl was and she said she was 21. I also asked her if she knew that their relationships overlapped and she said that Mark always told her he was single since they met, but she kind of felt like that wasn't true. I told her that since his previous girlfriend was also significantly younger it seemed like he had a thing for younger girls, which is kind of weird. After discussing that, she told me a bit more about her relationship. She told me she was starting to feel weird about it because of Mark's recent behavior. I asked what she meant and she said that he had been flirting with a lot of girls, who were all also younger, including some of Ella's friends. When she confronted him he sort of gaslit her into thinking it wasn't flirting. He was also making a lot of comments about having children with Ella and how cute it would be to see her raise them. She told me she was absolutely not ready for that and also wanted to go to college and work and not be a som. Because of all of that she was doubting her relationship and I told her that I understood. She said she was scared of breaking up with him because he had become her whole life recently and she didn't know what she would do without him. I told her that she was surrounded by people who loved her and would be there for her, and that she was a lot more than just Mark's girlfriend. I said that she knew my opinion on it, but that ultimately the choice was hers, and that I just wanted her to be happy. I also said I would be there for her no matter what. She told me that she will try to break up with him this week, and she'll let me know how it goes. I'll edit this post if I have more info. Also, again, thank you to everyone who gave advice and tried to help us. I really appreciate it. Edit. Okay, so I just want to say, some people in the comments seem to think that this is fake, and you know what, I can understand. And I don't really care. I'm not asking you to believe that my life is real or fake, and it's great that you don't just believe everything you see online. But I just want to say this, there are hundreds of people on here or elsewhere that share similar stories. I'm not really affected by people thinking I'm lying, mainly because I'm not the one in that situation. But some people might be. Some people come on here to share something that might have traumatized them, and the last thing they want is for others to think they're lying. So if you don't want to believe me that's fine, but the next time keep that to yourself. It's fine to not believe something, but you don't have to say it, because it might make other people feel really bad. Comments where Op replied, no, basically I was telling her that it was weird for him to date her and she was telling me that she understood that older men dating younger girls can be creepy as a whole, but sometimes it's just because they're in love. Then I talked for a while about how men our age normally perceive 18-yo as literal children, so they don't go after them unless they're actually okay with dating children. And when I asked her that question it really hit her and she admitted that maybe it was actually weird. And then she talked about all the red flags, but it was kind of unrelated. I think it's the addition of both of these things that made her really come to the realization that the relationship was a bit weird. But what I didn't say in the post is, this took a really long time. We talked for over 3 hours and what I posted is just a really big summary of all we said. I just tried to keep it short but it wasn't as quick as it seems to be. To explain this in more details, I went through the guy's socials with my friends a few days ago because we thought there might be other weird things going on and we ended up finding info about his previous relationship, the one right before Ella. So Ella told me at Christmas, so December 24th, that they had been dating for a few months, but when we searched his Facebook we saw a post wishing happy birthday to a girl who he called his baby on December 12th. And this girl appeared in other posts where they were kissing or he was calling her pet names so we assumed she was his GF. Which Ella confirmed afterwards. And this girl also looked very young. He at one point wrote something about her and said as soon as you're done with college, so we knew she was in college. And she looked between 20 and 25. And Ella then confirmed that she was 21. But yeah, basically it seemed like he was still with his ex while dating Ella, so I asked her if she knew about that. I also didn't think she would understand, but I think the many red flags she has been seeing in Mark recently contributed to that a lot. Were you ever loved if you think looking out for your younger relative makes you creepy? Didn't you have family members that were there for you growing up? Yeah, my friends and I are currently going through his socials. We've done Facebook already and found his last ex was around 20 to 24 and their relationship overlapped with his relationship with my niece.